On a day much different from today, it was cold. It was bitterly cold. 75 years ago, stood a place that isn't old, but was actually new and unveiling. On May 28th, 1936, opened the Shakespearean Gardens, and for the special premiere came Lord and Lady Tweedsmuir, who, Lord Tweedsmuir, was the Governor General. Now, generally in Stratford, it wasn't a very big town at the time, so something like this, at this occasion, generally didn't happen. So generally the streets would line with people. And like I said, unlike today, which is a nice 25-degree day, it was bitterly cold. People in coats. Now, if I have to say that this garden was started just randomly, I'd have to say that is a lie. Because when it comes down to it, there was one man that was mainly responsible for the happening of Shakespearean Gardens. Which is why, to my left, you'll see a memorial to Thomas Orr. He was the one who started all, and he is the one who first came here on this land before it was even put up. There used to be a woolen mill here, you see, and it had been running for about 50 years. Now, this woolen mill had burnt down 2 times prior, and the second time it burnt down, they didn't have the funding to rebuild it. So, Thomas Orr came, bought the land, which they originally wanted $16,000 for, but he bartered, in the end, for $7,000. But all the materials he took from the burnt down factory were then sold, and half of it was actually paid for. So from $16,000, he actually paid $3,500, which really helped, because one of the top quotes by Thomas Orr is always go against what people are saying to you. Even if you're in a deficit, keep going. And through many ways, he got what he wanted at a very much lower price. Now, a lot of this stone you'll see is limestone. Now, with very little funding, you'd wonder, how did they get this? Well, there's a factory that was shut down, and they took it apart. And Thomas Orr came right after and offered them some money because in the basement, he noticed there's limestone. So, a lot of the limestone you see here was actually from a factory and from a stone quarry from St. Mary's. Now, what this is a sundial, and this was also unveiled by the Governor General. Now, the Governor General was also responsible for cutting the ribbon. Back then, it was more of a big deal to have bigger figures involved with certain affairs of the town. Now, as nice as it was when all this was unveiled, it didn't always look nice. By the 1970s, around 1977, all in here had become overgrown, all in there would become weeds, and it generally wasn't being taken care of, to the point where there was a lot of people complaining about it. So, the Park Management Board came up with $17,000, and a lot of the things you'll see now, like things like just bush lines, just all the little effects that add all together that make Shakespearean Gardens for what it is. Never really used to be like this. A lot of the people here would be thankful for it.
Action.
Where this stack stands was once part of what was called the Dufton Woolen Mills. Now, it started operation in about 1872 and ran for about 50 years before in 1922 the Park Management Board bought the ruins and turned it into the garden we all love, Shakespearean Gardens. So, between when this place was made and when 1950 to 1970 generation happened, there's been a lot of changes. From what I'm looking at over there, there's tons of gardens. Over here you'll see a lot more bush line, and again, more and more gardens. But some of the things that I could really point out that have changed is that used to be a different bridge, and it actually used to be white. Pretty interesting. It was white, not brown. That is a fact. And when this general area was conceived, they didn't have that ahead of Shakespeare. Now, this town is known as more of an artsy town, so it was donated, and it's very beautiful. In about 1949, there's a man who took an interest in this place, similar to Thomas Orr, and his name was Arthur Skidmore. Now, Arthur Skidmore wanted to have a monument, something that Shakespearean Gardens can be known for. But, unfortunately, he died, and many thought the project would be called off. But surprisingly, the Supreme Lodge of Toronto endorsed it, and they paid for the project. So, from about 1949 to 1922, it was just minute differences. There wasn't very many things that had been changed. Really, one of the only notable things would be that that bridge was white. Beyond that, just minute differences with the grass and the flowers. So, beyond a bit of shrubs and the modernization, Shakespearean Gardens hasn't, well, actually it has changed a lot.